Welcome to the Fire and Earth podcast with your hosts, Jason Mefford and Kathy Groover. Fire and Earth, giving you the keys to unlock your limitless potential.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Fire and Earth podcast. I am your co-host, Kathy Groover.
And I'm Jason Mefford. And today we thought it would be kind of fun because, on the podcast, we talk a lot about different things. And sometimes you've heard us refer to things about coaching. We've had a lot of people on that are therapists. And we thought it just might be good because we know that there's some misconceptions out there of what's the difference between coaching versus therapy. Because a lot of times coaching sessions start to become therapy sessions, or people think that they're going to be getting therapy from coaching, and that's not necessarily what it is. So let's get in and talk about it today. So Kathy, what's the difference in your mind?
There's such a fine line, right? Because you are talking about things to move you forward. And the way I like to explain it to my clients is, and this is a vast generalization because of course everybody does this differently, but in my mind, so therapy tends to focus on the past. It gets stuck in the story a lot. So it might be a lot of the client talking, the therapist occasionally asking a question or giving homework or here's an exercise to do sort of thing. Whereas coaching, we try to not get them lost in the story. It's really about where are you at this moment? Where do you want to go? And the coach holding you accountable. So in my coaching practice, I do a couple things. I call people on their bullshit, which they appreciate. It is guided by the coachee, which a lot of people don't get. So they walk in the door and go, what do you want to talk about today? And I'm like, well, it's not my session. So what did you bring? And it is about holding them accountable, about really helping them distill down what do you want and how can we get you there? So it's an accountability partner, not getting lost in the story, not dwelling in the past. Certainly the past might come up. So therapy is more in my mind, therapy is more past focused, coaching is more future focused.
Well, and I think it's good to kind of think about that too. And anybody who's been, because I'll kind of give my 2 cents, which pretty much line up, but I'll say it a little bit differently too, right? Which is, a lot of times, and we've talked about talk therapy. It's been around for a long time. Works for some people, doesn't work for other people. A lot of times therapy sessions tend to be a bitch and moan session.
Yep.
Complaining about your mother. Woe is me. I'm a victim. My life sucks. I got raped. I went through a divorce. Whatever, right? And so to me, a lot of times too, the therapy sessions tend to almost coddle people and kind of tell people it's not your fault, honey.
Yeah, validating feelings.
It's not your fault. It's validating feelings, right? So if you're familiar with that and you like that, then you probably should keep doing that. But if you go to a coaching session and you start to get into the woe is me, my life sucks, you're going to get called on your shit, right? Because it's not the coach's responsibility to validate your feelings. They're trying to get you out of whatever those stories are that are in your head.
Yep. Get
you to see things in a different way. And it's something that is personalized. So that's another thing that a lot of people don't realize, like you said, Kathy, when people walk in and you're like, what are we going to talk about today? I have no fucking clue. You got to start talking.
Right. Tell me where
we go, right?
What's alive for you right now?
I don't know, right? Well, because I got somebody that was, in one of my programs, I'm offering like an open house for one of my group coaching sessions, because people a lot of times are like, I don't understand what this is. It's like, well, come in, we'll let you come into this open session and actually see what it's like. And I've had some people that are like, well, I'm not sure if I can do that. I need to have the agenda for it. And I'm like, there is no agenda. We don't know what we're going to talk about.
Yep.
Until we get there and you see what's on people's minds or what people need to talk about.
Yep. And it's what is, and it was when I was doing my coaching training, the question was, what's alive for you in this moment? Which is a little too woo for me. Just that phrasing of it, what's alive for you in this moment? But it's true. It's like, what are you walking in the door with right now? And at the end of last session, we might have said, hey, we really should talk about blah, blah, blah. But in that interim between sessions, maybe you had a conflict at work, maybe you had a fight with your spouse, maybe you dredged up something that you do need to address now. It is so client led, and I think that's forgotten. And it's funny, one of the ways I now vet my clients is we have a 15-minute phone call, talk about what I do, what they're looking for, and then they send them a packet of, you need to fill this out before your first session. And it is some deep stuff. Like, it is not la la la. You're not doing this in 5 minutes. It's really causing people to think.
My favorite color is blue,
right?
And I like cats more than dogs.
I'm 8 on the Enneagram. Okay, good. But it's like some really deep questions. And I've had so many people get the packet, and about 3 days later, they go, I'm going to go a different direction. Because they look at that, and either one, they go, oh, fuck, this is too much work. Or they go, oh, crap, she's making me think about stuff I thought she was going to tell me what to do. And that is not what coaching is. We do not give advice. We are not a girlfriend. We're not going to just let you bitch and whine for an hour. I will stop you and say, look, I'm not coaching your roommate from college. I'm coaching you. So, what are you bringing to this right now? So I think there's a lot of misconceptions, like we already said, about what the coaching relationship looks like. I'm not solving your problem for you. I will ask you questions. If you need advice, I'll take off my coaching hat for a second and tell you my opinion, but that is not what coaching is.
Well, and I think kind of what you were just talking about there kind of reminded me too. It's maybe another distinction is therapy is more passive, right? You go in and you kind of talk about your feelings or whatever else. Coaching is more active.
Yeah, that's true.
You actually have to do the work, right? And so doing something like trying to screen your clients, because if they're not willing to fill out a 3 or 5 page whatever it is, if they're not willing to show up and do the homework and actually come prepared, right? That's because at the end of the day, the coach isn't going to do the work for you. That's what a consultant does, right? If you want somebody to come and do the work for you, go hire a consultant. But the coach is there to really help you, and so again, maybe let's use a sports analogy, right? Is okay if I'm trying to play basketball, because when I was younger I wanted to be an NBA player, and then I know you know me, and I stopped growing at 5'9", and I realized there's no way in hell I'm playing in the NBA, right? Okay. But let's say, again, so if I was going to go get therapy for it, right, I'd probably be talking about, I'm just really having a hard time with my free throws. I'm only making 60% of my free throws, and I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong. And the therapist would say, well, Jason, I don't really know either, but let's talk about your mother, because maybe there's something about the relationship with your mother.
You resent her because you're only 5'9",
and so because of that, you're not able to put it through the hoop because you just feel like you don't have what it takes. So let's talk about this for the next 3 years. Right? That would be therapy. Coaching, you show up, right? And it's like, I'm only making 60% of my free throws. I'm not sure why. And the coach is going to say, okay, well, grab a ball. Let's go over to the court. You start throwing, start doing free throws. And they stop and they're like, well, why are you twisting that way? Well, I don't know. What do you mean? What am I doing twisting? Or, you're not following through, with your hand on the ball. You're not actually, because actually in basketball, you're holding it with 2 hands, but you're only using the one hand to actually shoot. The other one is only as a guidance mechanism, right? So they're going to sit there and they're going to see what you're doing. Because they're observing it from a different perspective than you are. And then they're going to give you homework. Right. They're going to help you practice it while you're going through and doing, the coaching session. And then they're going to say, okay, now I want you to go away. And for the next week, you shoot 200 free throws a day and you do it this way. And next week, we're going to come back. You're going to get on the court and you're going to show me what you practiced last week. And then I will help you do something else. Right. As opposed to consulting, which is fuck that. I'm not going to do all that work. Okay, go hire, I don't even know who the guys are now, Steve Curry or somebody like that, to come in and play basketball for you.
Right. And then you bring hypnosis into it, where they will put you into a deep state of trance and have you visualize doing free throws until you get them all right.
Mm-hmm. Which is another
way of doing it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I've had so many clients say, oh my God, I've been doing therapy for years. I fired so many therapists. I've gotten more work done with you in our first 3 sessions than I did in years of therapy. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to find a coach, and we can talk about that if we feel like it, there's so many different ways to find a coach. There's different sort of like groups that refer you to different coaches. So you can like look through the list of coaches, understand that those apps and those websites take such a huge percentage of what the coach charges. So it's almost better, not saying you should skirt those apps, but if you see somebody you really like, trying to find them organically online someplace is better for the coach, because they just get a little more income from it. And know that you have to do the work. If you want to start working with a coach, you have to bring something to each session. We can talk about it for the first 10 minutes and figure out where we're going to go. But I have clients who they show up, they turn on their phone and they go, okay, so since I've seen you, this is what's happened, blah, 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 blah. It helps you remember what you want to talk about. Some people like to do weekly sessions. I have clients that do every 2 to 3 weeks. So in that interim, they are keeping track of what is going on so that they can talk about it with me. Definitely recommend that if you want to start a coaching relationship. Make sure you know what you're bringing to the table.
Well, and it's one of those too, just to give people some tips on kind of that, if you're somebody who thinks that you want some coaching, how do you find the right coach? Like you said, there, you can do some Google searches, you can use some of those apps to try to find people, but it's just like finding a doctor or any other kind of service provider that you're going to be working with. A lot of it is about the fit. Okay. It's about finding somebody who you like. Yeah. And you don't necessarily need to like them as a person, like, hey, we're going to be best buddies or anything like that. But who's somebody that really resonates with you or that you feel comfortable with?
Yep.
Because this is the other thing is, with something like a hypnosis session, okay, you can do that once or twice and it's probably going to help you. Right. Yep. Coaching, usually you're going to be with this person for months, years, potentially. And so it's important for you to find somebody that you feel comfortable with, yep. That you feel like is going to be able to help them. So, like Kathy was talking about, you're doing things at the beginning to make sure that potential clients are the kind of person you want to work with. Well, as the client, you need to be doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
Right. And kind of trying to find out, whether this is somebody you want to work with. It's kind of like the whole relationship thing that we were talking, in one of the earlier episodes with, I think with Allison, right, that was realtor.
Yeah. Allie, yeah.
Allie. Same thing where you're trying to figure out if this is a fit from a relationship perspective as well.
Absolutely. Because it's not, one of the things I say, and it's top of mind because I had a new client yesterday, so I went through my first session spiel, was I may ask you personal questions. I may ask you intimate questions. You can always say, I'm not comfortable answering that. And then I'm probably going to give a little bit of pushback and say, well, why? Because there's a reason I'm asking the question. It's not just my curiosity of, I wonder what happened to them when they were 6. It's to move the conversation forward and to look at maybe patterns of behavior or patterns of learning as to why this is happening now. So let's move forward from that. So you better make sure that you have a great connection with the person. When I finished my certification, I had to do 10 sessions of coaching basically. So I had a coach that was coaching me on how to coach. Whew, that was a lot of words. And I shopped around. I interviewed 5 or 6 people before I really found one that resonated, that had the resources that I was looking for, that I thought could help me, not only from what that was required perspective, but also on a personal level. Because there were times where something was so overwhelming to me in that moment that we kind of put that on hold for a second and talked about what was alive for me in that moment, to go back to that. So And it works, it fits. I don't like it, but yeah, it's the thing. So, yeah, make sure you have that connection with someone, just like you do with every other health practitioner, and you get to decide how long you want to do that. I require 6 sessions up front, period, because you can't do 1 or 2 and solve the problems. I want to build that relationship. I want to have that connection and that intimacy and that trust over 6 sessions. And most people don't get to 6 and go done. Most people continue on, and then the coaching relationship sort of ends organically when you realize, everything I wanted to do with you, I kind of reached. Do we want to set new goals and start over, or are you complete? And that's something that you decide with your coach. So
Yeah, and it's one of those things too. I mean, again, we talked about that, for coaching to work, you have to put in the time, you have to put in the effort to do it. And that's why, most significant transformation doesn't come after 1 or 2 sessions, because again, the reality of how we work, it takes time for some of these things to show up or have a fruition to it, if you will. And so that's why typically, most coaching figure you're going to be spending 3 months, at least, because you're not going to be seeing some of the results until you get to that point. Because often it takes 60 to 90 days to start seeing the evidence or the changes in your life. And that's true of coaching. It's true of anything that you're doing, right? If you're trying to establish a new habit or do anything else, 60 to 90 days is the time frame that it takes before you're going to start to see real results. So don't give up too soon, but realize what you're getting into.
Absolutely. And understand also that opening that one door, it leads to so many other doors. And I've had people come to me for coaching thinking they want to focus on A. And after the 2 or 3 conversations, we realize there's B, C, D, E, F, it's maybe a relationship thing, or it's so much comes down to our personal relationships. And I've had clients come to me for business coaching, and 6 months later, we're talking about their relationship because they realize they don't want to be with their spouse anymore. And it's turned into a completely different kind of coaching. So being open to exploring wherever that path leads, I think, is another one of those things of being flexible and being open to, what's going to come up and what might that coaching relationship lead to. So it's about flexibility.
Well, it is. And that was kind of a good point too, is that, sometimes, whenever you go into something like a coaching relationship, you think you know what the problem is, but often what you think the problem is not the problem. And so sometimes, like you said, it comes back to, damn it, I'm trying to grow my business. My business isn't growing. I've plateaued. I'm doing whatever. And you think there's something about your business that needs to change. Like if I just tweak one little thing, if I change my messaging and my marketing, if I do something like that, then everything is going to be hunky-dory. But the reality is usually there's some deeper energetic thing associated with it. Like, hey, I'm with a partner that we've outgrown the relationship, and staying in that relationship is putting me in a negative space or is holding me back from doing what I need to do to get to that next level in my business. Or, it could be something as simple too of, I've just lost passion for what I've been doing and I need to pivot. Because until you pivot, you're never going to have the passion again and the energy and the fire to get things going. So
Or
like
you're not in alignment. You're not in alignment with your values, or you don't know what your values are, or you've got a saboteur like a hyperachiever or a restless that's actually taking over, and or you're in the wrong ego state. It's like, and those are things that the coach can guide you through. Very few people sit around thinking about their own saboteurs and ego states, unless you know the thing. So this is why you go to somebody. I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's like that's sort of tied into what you're talking about. This is why you go to an expert that has the knowledge, that has the tools, that has those exercises that can help you grow and evolve to get to where you want to go.
Yeah, because the reality is, we're all smart people, but we can't see our own blind spots. That's why they're called blind spots. And so that's why having somebody look at it from a different perspective, they're going to be able to notice things that you'll never be able to notice on your own. And that's one of the reasons too why coaching has become such a huge growth business right now, because we all need coaching in one way or another.
Yeah.
because we can't see what we can't see, right? And this goes both ways, because I've seen this both in myself and in people that I've coached as well, is sometimes the coach sees that you've made much more progress than you think you have.
Yep.
And so you're over there beating yourself up going, I'm a piece of shit, I'm not doing anything, you fucking kind of thing. And they're like, no, I remember where you were 2 months ago and where you were 2 months ago to where you are today. Right? Give yourself some credit, because sometimes we're harder on ourselves than we need to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're not as hard on ourselves as we need to be.
That's
right?
true too.
And so it kind of cuts both ways. And like I said, typically the reason things haven't changed is because we can't see our blind spots. And you need somebody else to help you see those.
Yeah. Or it has changed and you haven't noticed, like you said. I mean, I've got clients who are like, I'm going to do this. And I go, hang on, pull back. Why don't we do one of those things? And then I have other clients that aren't doing anything. And I'm like, why don't we try one thing? So it depends. It's so client dependent. People are like, what do you do with your clients? I'm like, oh, which one? I mean, it's like I do relationship coaching where I sit down with both people in the office. I do ego state stuff. I do values. I do goal setting. I do mental bank. We should do a show on mental bank. I don't think we have.
I don't think we have.
Oh,
I'm not even that familiar with it, so we'll have to do one of those.
Such a great tool. Yeah, it's so cool. But it's like this is why I read so much and I listen to podcasts, and I love having guests on because I learn so much that I then get to distill down to my coaching client. So yeah, and there's not there's not the stigma associated with seeing a coach as there still is for some people seeing a therapist. Yeah.
Well, and I think what you brought up there too is, again, for people that are maybe looking for coaches, because I'd never heard this term until this morning when I was listening to a podcast, but it's called template coaching. And I was like, I've never heard of that before. But there are people that are out there that will say they're a coach, but really all they're doing is giving you a checklist, or they're using a template that has worked for somebody else. And so what they're trying to do is, instead of actually coaching you, they're just telling you what to do. Yeah. That is not coaching.
That is not coaching.
So again, if you're, as you're kind of interviewing or looking for people, yes, there are some kind of standard methodologies that you might go through. There's some similar exercises that a coach might use with most every client, but the advice that is given, the homework that is given, if you will, is going to be different, or should be different, right? Because you are a different person than somebody else, right? So again, if we go back to like the basketball thing, right? There's some people who might say I'm a coach and never really look at you and just give you a checklist and say, well, go dribble the ball 300 times, with your right hand, and 300 times with your left hand, and shoot, 200 free throws a day, and then you're going to be fine. So here you go. Yeah. I'm coaching you. I'm telling you what to do. Just go do it. Yeah. That's not coaching, because the problem is, until they actually work with you, look at what you're doing, understand your values, they're not going to know, oh, when you go to make the free throw, you're leaning to the right. Did you know that you were leaning to the right? Yeah. No, I didn't. Yep. Well, isn't it funny that all of your free throws are hitting the right side of the rim?
Lean to the left. Well, it's about observation. It's about accountability. It's about, tracking and goal setting. And it's about all of those things. And if you hand somebody a checklist, you could have Googled that. What do you need a live person for? You can Google, how do I do better free throws? That's not coaching. That's you just getting information. So that's a good distinction there.
Well, because the coach helps put it in context for you. And that's what a lot of people don't get. You can search Google all you want. You can watch all the YouTube videos you want, but we usually struggle as humans to put that content learning into the context that works for us. Yeah. And that's where coaches help.
Yeah. Yay. We help people. Cool. All right. This was great. and hopefully useful to so many people. So if you're looking for a coach, Jason and I both do coaching, so you can contact us. I think you probably do more business coaching, and I'd probably do more like life relationship kind of coaching stuff, but that's cool. We complement each other, right?
Well, and it's all, even business coaching is life coaching, because like we were talking about before, and this is what I tell my clients, or what they find out, is that usually it's not some different strategy or framework that they're missing. Typically, most of the problems, even from a business coaching perspective, relate to relationships and communication, which is much more in line with what people might typically consider a life coach to be helping with. So business coaching in a lot of ways is still life coaching, but applied in the context of running a business or being an executive in a business.
Right. Yeah. Very good point. Yeah. Most people that have come to me for business coaching, it ends up being personal life relationships.
It's usually personal shit that's holding people back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just saying.
We help flush down the personal shit. Yeah. Cool.
There you go. We're the plumbers. The plumbers.
Oh no. This has been great. All right, cool. I'm Kathy Groover. I can be reached at kathygruver.coach.
And I am Jason Mefford. I can be reached at jasonmefford.com. So go out, have a great rest of your week. And if you're somebody that feels like you need some coaching, go find somebody that resonates with you and just start on the path. Yeah. Because the sooner you start, the sooner you're going to get what you want out of life.
Absolutely.
And with that, we'll catch you on the next episode of the Fire and Earth Podcast. See ya.
See ya.